So what's up guys, it's Ash here and welcome back to a brand new video. If I look or sound a little bit rough, I do apologise. I have had a pretty rough day, you know, I've spent a lot of the time in the doctors and things like that. It's just been a bit of a rough time. I don't mean to waffle on, but yeah, I'm just looking to record this video and probably go to bed. So yeah, today we have some 4-1-2-1-2 narrow custom tactics and player instructions to help you out in FC24. And yeah, let's get right into it guys, I hope you enjoy. If you guys want coins for FC24, make sure you check out MMOEXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're very fast, they're very cheap, they're very reliable, and if you use my code Rema, you can get yourself a lovely 5% discount. Alright then guys, so starting off with the custom tactics. For the defensive style, we have this on balance. Now the reason we have it on balance is because it does give you the best control over your defenders. So when you want to be aggressive in your defense, you can, and then when you want to drop back and be a little bit more passive, you can also do that. If you want to use something like the pressure tactics, you can do that, but I don't really like to do that. Moving on to the defensive width guys, I have this on 35 because I prefer a more narrow and compact defensive width. Basically, I like to prevent my opponents being able to just run and attack right through the middle of me, but still maintain a bit of the width of the defense to cover the wider areas in case an opponent goes for an attack down the wing. So what I'm trying to say is you want to have a narrow width, but you also don't want to make it too narrow to the point where you've got no coverage of the wider areas as well. Now moving on to the depth guys, we have this on 60. There are a couple of options you can have for this. Basically before the update, 71 depth was super necessary, but after the update this kind of changed. You don't really need to use it anymore. You can use it if you want to have the automatic pressure which is available with it, but it's not an absolute necessity anymore. I like to use something like 60 so we can still have the higher defensive line, but we don't have to rely on the automatic press because it gives us more control when we can press when we want to. If this is still too high for you guys, you can lower this to like 55 and that is also fine guys. Moving on to the build-up play guys, we have this on balance because it does basically make your attacking build-up much more varied, so you can basically pick and choose when and where you use each form of build-up. So if you want to build up slowly, you can do that, and then if you want to play a little bit faster, you can also do that. So balanced is great in my opinion. Moving on to the chance creation, an absolute must in my opinion is direct passing because it is the only option which will allow you guys to break down the park the bus defenses which people often have. So when you use direct passing, your attackers will often isolate them, they will back up into the defenders, so they'll back up against them, so you can do the 1v1 isolation plays. They'll also commit these runs, wait for the opposition defenders to follow that run and then track back so you can cut back to them. So it's a very boring tactic to be honest with you, but it is very effective and important if you want to win those games. Sorry if I am messing up my words guys, yeah, I'm just struggling a bit right now. Moving on to the attacking width guys, we have this on 42. It doesn't really matter what your attacking width is, but I would suggest anything from 40 to 50 because this is a more narrow formation. The lower to 40 I'd say is better, 50's pushing it a bit in my opinion, but basically you want a nice narrow width that isn't too narrow at the same time, because if we use something like 25, our players are just going to be way too close together. So something like 40 keeps your players in a nice narrow shape, but it's not too narrow either, which is really nice. Moving on to the players in the box guys, we have this on 6, so we can get a few players into the box to finish off our chances, but we don't overcommit everybody. For the corners and free kicks, you can do what you want with this, but I just have them on 2. Sorry to interrupt the video guys, but I have noticed around 90% of you that watch the videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you are enjoying the content or finding it helpful, please consider adding that subscription as it does help me out massively. Also don't forget to drop a like on the video as well. And with all that aside guys, I hope you enjoy. Let's continue. Now, moving on to the player instructions, guys. On one of the strikers, I have them on stay central and mixed attack. Now, we have them on stay central because this player is obviously a striker, so we do primarily want them to be in the central positions where you would want your striker to be, so they can help you finish off your chances, and you always know where they are, essentially. Stay central, very meta, in my opinion. We also have this player on mixed attack as opposed to getting behind, because I feel like you get a lot more out of the player. Now, this is best used on your more technical of the two players because, you know, if they have that ability to help you build up, then it's really useful to actually utilize that because you're going to be wasting their stats otherwise. Because if you're just sending this player on a get in behind run all the time, you're not really getting the most out of the player. Sometimes they can be making useful contributions to the build-up as opposed to just making those runs. So I feel like it makes your attacks a lot more varied, and it's easier to build up as a result of that, guys. For the other striker, the more like runner of the two, if that makes sense, so somebody that might be lengthy or somebody that's just got a bit more raw pace, we have them on stay central and get in behind. We have them on stay central for the same reasons as the other striker, where we don't really want them drifting out into the wider areas. They are obviously still a striker, so we do want them to be in the middle positions as much as possible, but we do actually have this player on get in behind, so they do utilize their pace to get in behind the opponent's defensive line and look to give us as many chances as possible. I really think it's a good balance to have one striker on getting behind and the other on mixed attack, so you just have a bit of like, you have like the best of both worlds essentially, but you guys can have both on getting behind or two on mixed attacks, completely up to you really. For the cam guys, we actually have them on comeback on defense and get into the box for cross. We have this player on comeback on defense, so it will actually make it defend as a 4-4-2 shape. So this cam on comeback on defense will come back to defend as a left mid or right mid depending on the instructions you have on the other midfielders, which we'll get onto in a moment. But we do this because it makes it defend in a 4-man, like we said, and the 4-man midfield is really good because it gives you really good coverage of both the narrow and the wide areas, which makes it very difficult for your opponent to attack as there is not much space for them to do so. So this is a really important instruction if you want to be meta, guys. We also have this player on get into the box across, so they are not hesitant to get into the penalty area and help us out in those situations. Moving on to the left centre mid, my more box-to-box style centre midfielder, by the way. We leave them on the default settings and just pop them on cover centre. We leave them on the default settings because they are more box-to-box, so we don't just want to restrict them to defending, for example. We want them to have a bit of a free roll, so we kind of just let them do their own thing. The only important thing is that we have them on cover centre, so they do actually defend as one of the centre mids in the 4-4-2 shape, guys. Moving on to the CDM now, this is obviously the more defensive-minded midfielder. We have them on stay back while attacking, cut passing lanes and cover centre. Pretty self-explanatory instructions if I do say so myself, but we just have this because obviously we don't want them flying forward. We want them to intercept those passes, and then we also want them to defend as one of the middle centre mids in the 4-4-2 shape. Now, moving on to the right centre mid, we have them on get forward, get into the box across and cover wing to make this player defend as a right mid in the 4-4-2 shape. You'll notice we have Griezmann in this right centre mid spot, and because it defends in a 4-man, and this player will actually defend as a right mid in this cover with this cover wing instruction, we don't actually have to have a centre mid here because their defensive stats are not as important. So like I said, this cam's on comeback on defense, so in my case this cam will defend as a left mid because we've got this right centre mid on the cover wing instruction, which means this player will defend as a right mid, and then these two players here, Gaoro and Tchouaméni, will defend as the two centre mids, if that makes sense. So a more attacking minded player with get forward, get into the box cross and cover wing. Really effective, guys. For the left back, my more attacking fullback, we have them on balanced attack and overlap. This is because the 4-1-2-1-2 is obviously quite a narrow formation, so it is very useful to have somebody on the overlapping run type with balanced attack because it stretches out your opponent's defense, leaving more space for your narrow players to go and attack. Because if everybody is really narrow in the formation, your opponent's defensive line looks a lot like that. But if you have a fullback that is overlapping, for example, the line will stretch and it gives you more space for your narrow players to go through the middle essentially. So balanced overlap, really underrated, and have it on one of your more attacking fullbacks. For the other fullback, guys, we have them on stay back while attacking and overlap, so we always have at least 3 defenders back at a time, but when we send them on the overlapping run forward, they will add that extra width for us. For the 2 centre backs, I leave them alone, and the goalkeeper, I also leave them alone, but you can do comes, crosses and sweeper keeper if you would like. But yeah, guys, that is it for the video. If you have enjoyed or found it useful, sorry if I did mess up a few of my lines or whatever. I really am struggling at the moment. We will be back to our full health soon, hopefully. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Please be sure to drop it a like if you did, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace out, guys. Love you lots.